And we're live. All right, guys, we want to welcome you to the Mad Maker Show. My name is Eloy, and I'm your host, and the co-host is right somewhere around there, JP.
Hello, I am JP. I'm drinking from my Mancrafting mug this evening, which you can buy at MancraftingTM.com. You can find me at makersinternationalpodcast.com or at jp-woodwork.com, also sponsored by harnellmedia.com.
It's funny because I also have a Mancrafting mug right here with my logo on it. And today we're interviewing Chad Grosklags from MancraftingTM. Chad.
How's everyone doing? Let's do this. That's my shout out to Rory Smith. Rory just sent me this in the mail. It's a beautiful knife bottle opener wrench.
That's nice.
Did a little horse trading. I traded him some mugs, and he sent me that sweet knife. So thanks, Rory, if you're watching.
What a trip, dude. So, guys, we're going to start the interview off. But before we do that, just let me mention for those of you that haven't seen the show before and those that have, we call this the Mad Maker Show because I always, look at it like people that create, invent things, anything from woodworking, metalwork, crafts, art, drawing. It occurs to me that they've always been slightly off, missing a few nuts and bolts, but it doesn't mean that that's a bad thing. Some of them can become or could become axe murderers, but they end up making cool stuff. So I think we've got a possible crazy here today that we're interviewing, but we'll find out. A lot of you guys know him, and those of you that don't, we'll leave links down in the description. You can check out all those links and follow along. If you have any questions along the way, you're free to ask. We have JP here, and he's taking care of business. He's moderating the chat over there.
Awesome.
So, Chad, I've known you for a good while now, and we've shared a lot of hangouts and conversations. There's a lot to get to, but I want to ask to begin with, so we can have the station, the base, where it started. Where are you from? Where are you at? Give us a little bit of a background so we have a better picture.
Okay, so I was born in the north. I was born in Minnesota. My family moved quite a bit as a child. I lived in Colorado, Texas, Arizona, Oregon, Georgia. So several places. I've been all over the country. A lot of those places I was pretty young, so I don't really remember them. But I think I went to like 3 schools in 5th grade. So I've moved around quite a bit. Moved here to Georgia when I was going into the 8th grade and have spent the majority from 8th grade to 51 here in Georgia with a stint overseas and in the military, and maybe a short time down in Florida. But that's about it. Pretty much here since about 1980.
Wow. Okay, so you've seen a lot of the country, and you said overseas too. So like overseas in the military, you said where?
I was stationed in Korea for a year during the 1988 Olympics. And then once I came back to the U.S., I was stationed at Fort Benning. I did a short time over in Germany. It's called, it's an exercise that we went over for. It's called Reforger. Just a short stint over there, but that's about it.
Okay, so I came across your videos when I met you actually, and we were in a hangout, and I met you for the first time. It's probably been a year, maybe a little over. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's been about a year.
Do you remember?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So a couple of so you were showing me around the shop, me and Jerry Blakesley, and so we were in the hangout, and I think it was the weekend, and you were showing us around the shop, and it was my first view of what you do with powder coating and mugs. And I've seen a lot of us have seen a lot of your work all throughout the internet. I mean, you're everywhere. You're like right now it's very, very hot. A lot of people are requesting your mugs, your engravings, their logos on it, and top notch. Can you give us a little bit about what you do and your process?
Do you want me to like go back to kind of how it all started, or just like what I do currently?
Well, I want what you do currently, and you can follow up with how you got started, like Quentin Tarantino chopped up history, or you could do it however you want. You're free to do it.
So currently what I do is there's basically 3 or 4 different ways you can order a cup. You could get something like a Yeti brand where it's already Duracoated, and then I could laser etch. This is my, well, let's see if you can see there. My laser's right next to me. This is kind of my computer that I do all the laser stuff on. So that's the laser I bought. And there's a story behind that as well. Let me fix my camera. I apologize. Okay. So I can do something like that. I could start with like a generic cup to keep the cost down. The generic cups are basically identical in most every way, except for maybe a little difference in shape or size. But generally it's 30 ounce, 20 ounce, 10 ounce cups. And I can powder coat it, or I can laser etch on stainless to get kind of a black image on a silver cup. I can buy a pre-coated cup and then just laser etch that off to keep the cost down. It just depends on what the customer wants. Some people like Yeti brand. Some people hate Yeti brand. I'm open to it all. Just like sports teams, if somebody likes a particular team, I'm not, here to judge your team. I'm just here to give you what you want.
Right on. So we've all ordered, and a lot of people. How do we get in touch with you if we want to order one, or just look at the options that you have available? And by the way, the reason I mentioned they're great. Like I use it everywhere. When I go out, I fill it up with whatever. I'm trying to drink more water, but and I take it. It's the best way. You can close off the top. It won't spill. It's got a gasket around the top, so and you have your brand, your logo with you, or whatever on there. Anyways, how do they search your stuff?
Well, I mean, obviously you can go to Facebook. I've got a ton of information on Facebook, a lot of pictures of previous cups we've done. Also, I'm on Instagram, Mancrafting, and tons. I try to post every time I do a new job. I try to post those pictures so people can look through, and if they see something they like, they can let me know. And of course, I've started setting up, and with the help of Steve from Harnell Media, we've been setting up. He's sponsored us. All 3 of us have been sponsored by Steve. So
yes,
very generous, and he's a big supporter of the community. So definitely a shout out to Steve at harnellmedia.com.
Yeah, and we have his information below in the description for those of you guys that are makers. He really caters to makers, and what he does is he sets up your website, and it's pretty easy to. It's a complicated process. He makes it easy for you, and he'll show you pricing and all that stuff. It's to cater to us makers. So I'm doing it, Chad, and I'm enjoying my website. I can write articles like this. This here will become an article with pictures of what Chad has talked to us about, and a Q&A, links and all that. And it helps having multiple areas where you promote your interests, and other people can find you, throughout the web. But yeah, Harnell Media.
And the great thing for me is that if Steve gets it set up and kind of walks you through how to update things yourself, if you want to add an article, if you want to add a product to your shop, some of the things that I'm currently working on adding are more products on the cup side. I also have links to t-shirts with my logo on them, and I'll soon be adding these, which are the magnets you see behind me, as well as stickers. Currently, I just do sticker swaps, but as you grow, sometimes that gets a little overwhelming. So I'll have those on the site for people that aren't part of the swap, that are just interested in supporting my channel. But so I currently have a shop that has the cups on them. I've been slowly but surely adding more and more of the products that I offer. I don't have everything on there yet, but with Steve's help, we've been getting that slowly but surely added.
Awesome. JP, before we continue, are there any questions out in the chat world?
I'll be totally honest with you. I've not been looking. I've been posting all the links that you've just been mentioning over in the chat section. So I've been busy getting them.
Okay. Well, so I'll continue on. So Chad, your videos, every time you put out a video, they're very interesting to me. I like the way you do it. It's very professional. And you always leave Easter eggs, extras in there as well, whether it be tips. And it's very interesting, right? It could be related to what you're doing, or it could be something random at the end. So you make it really, really nice. And a cool thing that you do that I enjoy is, maybe I should ask a question instead of consider, but the cool thing that you do that I enjoy is that whatever you use, you actually link it so that people can, you know, research what you use via the Amazon links and all that. And I think that that's such a great, cool, you turned me on to that. I think it's such a great, you know, tool to use. But anyways, my question, your videos, your video style, your ideas, can you just give us, you know, from your mind, how you work at it, what you like for video, and just random thoughts?
I'll tell you, you know, sometimes people tell me that my videos are good. I see other people's videos and I think mine are subpar. I do try to get across what it is I'm doing. I think the first video that I had that was had any traction other than just the silly stuff that I post on my channel since 2006 was a how-to video. And the one thing that I go to YouTube for more than anything is to learn how to do things. And I love that aspect of YouTube. As a matter of fact, I just changed the brakes on my wife's car. I'd never changed brakes out on a Volvo before. I was able to go to YouTube and find that information. And as I was doing it, reference it to make sure that I was doing it correctly. And I've done that I've changed out the switch in my furnace. It's a gas furnace, which, you know, that's a kind of an intimidating thing to mess around with, but there's videos on it. And I bought one of these tumblers, and I you know, tried to find information on how to customize it. At the time, there was just nothing out there. So I kept working at it. I finally figured out what I wanted to do. And once I did, I thought, you know, maybe some other people would be interested in, you know, customizing their own tumblers. And at the time, all I was interested in was just putting a video up and enjoying my own tumbler. As it turns out, people saw my tumbler and they instantly wanted one of their own. And originally, I don't have it down here, but my original method of customizing was sandblasting the stainless steel, and I would use a Cricut vinyl cutter to sandblast off the image and then peel away the vinyl mask. And so I spent, it was funny, I spent 40 bucks on a cup, which, you know, is a lot of money for a tumbler, but at the time there was no $10 option. It was 40 or nothing. And I had ruined a bunch of Tervis tumblers in a dishwasher incident. And yeah, so apparently not supposed to put them in the dishwasher. But I thought, you know what? Stainless steel pretty much can't get destroyed in a dishwasher. I'll get one. You know, the Tervis tumblers are like 20 bucks each. We ruined 6 of those Tervis tumblers. I was like, well, that's a bargain. I'll get one and it won't get ruined. So I figured out how to sandblast into the cup, and I bought a $100 sandblaster off of Craigslist. I bought a $200 Cricut vinyl cutter. So $340 later, I had a custom tumbler.
It's amazing, dude. Because of that, I'll let you go on up. But because of that, your business has exploded, dude.
It's been so And that's the thing. When I sometimes hear other makers ask the question, you know, how do I make money with this? How do I, you know, I'm making these things and I want to sell them. How do I make money with it? And I think for me, initially it was just a way to customize my own cup. And I think a lot of us makers kind of start out that way. We just make stuff because we want to, you know, we want a table in our dining room, or we want some sort of thing that we couldn't necessarily go out and buy, or maybe we thought we could make it cheaper. Or I like to look at things like this. Can I make it myself and save enough money on making it myself that I can purchase the tool that I would need to build that? And that's kind of how I've approached this whole sort of hobby business that I've been in. I started making, well, so let's continue with that train of thought. I was making these and people were asking me, hey, where'd you get that done? Or how'd you do that? And like I said, I put up the video first and realized that pretty quickly that a lot of people were interested in it. And so I listened. You know, my coworkers were asking me to do cups. My best friend was over here helping me do some, and he wanted his own cups. And then some of his neighbors were asking. And so I knew at that point, I said, hey, I'm making something that people are interested in. I need to make it for them. And I remember at Christmas that year, I probably had 100 cups sitting on my dining room table. And me and my best friend were in there. His name's Andy. You'll actually see him in the How to Pot a Coat of Yeti video. He also does the New England Patriots tumbler that we did, 2-color or 3-color. I think it was 3 colors. But anyway, 3-color tumbler. Anyway, he's been in a couple of videos. And we were sitting in the living room or in the dining room, and our wives were in the living room talking. And they looked over and they saw us with the Cricut vinyl cutter. And they were like, oh, look at our boys. They're so cute. And they're doing their arts and crafts. And of course, you know, we're guys. We're like, wait a second.
Oh,
here.
dude, I don't want to stop you, but I have to say that was going to be my next question. And so let me ask it.
Okay, ask it.
I know where you. So just for the sake of my darn Q&A article, so I can have a breaking point where it'll start. So dude, the Mancrafting name, where did that come from?
Okay, so I'd already kind of started that, but
I know.
Our wives were in the other room. We were in the dining room with tumblers all over the dining room table. We had a Cricut vinyl cutter, and we're there cutting out vinyl with, you know, people's names and, you know, company logos and such. And they looked over at us and they said, look at our boys over there. They're so cute doing their arts and crafts. And we were like, wait a second, we're sandblasting. These aren't just arts and crafts. This is manly arts and crafts. And then, you know, we coined the term. I think Andy said it first, mancrafting. We're mancrafting, you know, just took the idea of arts and crafts and being men. And so it was just it was kind of a joke in the moment. And the next day, or as I slept on, I thought, you know, that's a great name. I need to do something with that. So I immediately, you know, trademarked it and had a logo made. And as a matter of fact, one of our other members does some logo design. Actually, if you already have a logo and it doesn't work for etching or something like that, I'm not an Adobe Illustrator guy. I'm not a Photoshop guy, but we have a guy, Javi, from Hobbies Woodshop. He set up vectordesignservices.com.
Yes.
Vectordesignservice.com. I think it's vectordesignservice.com.
Yeah,
so
we'll link it. JP will link it if he can.
So Javi can take, for $10, he can take your current logo and he can turn it into something that can be used on a laser. So just, sorry, wanted to shout out
No,
Javi
right.
there. He's done a lot of good stuff for me.
Right. Not only that, he can also, if you don't have a logo, you can give him a few key, going to the website contact, you could give him a few key points and back and forth, and he can set, you know, he can make the logo for you.
Super.
So
I didn't want to commit him to that without knowing for a fact, but he has got very good Photoshop skills and Adobe Illustrator skills. So he's able to take something that might not quite be the highest quality and either remake it or fix it so that it's a vector image so it can be used on the laser. And, you know, that's the great thing about the maker community. We all kind of get together and we help each other out. And $10 to have a logo vectorized is super cheap. If you go around anywhere in the U.S., it's $80 to have something like that done. So it's a great service that he's doing for people in the community. So we started sandblasting. We got the Mancrafting name, and I started thinking about the concept or idea of powder coating. I'd seen a video, and the video I saw was actually, his name is John. I can't remember his last name, but he runs NYCNC, and he did one little video where he took a recipe or a recipe book holder, and he powder coated it. And I was intrigued. I was like, wow, I wonder if I can do that on these cups. So I started researching it. Nobody was doing it. I went on to some powder coating forums, and they won't give you any information. And I went on some Facebook pages that had powder coating, and they wouldn't give any information. Everybody in the powder coating industry, they want you to just fail until you figure it out. They don't want to give you any information on how to do anything. So I'm not that way. I'm free to share them, and anything I learn, I'm willing to share it. And that's
your videos are instructional, and they're actually on the top. If you search for it, they're up on the first page of YouTube, and I think Google maybe, yeah.
Probably, yeah. If you type in like how to powder coat a Yeti, it's gonna be me. There's a couple other people that have done it since, but initially there was absolutely no information on how to do it. And not only did I start doing the powder coating on the Yetis, but I actually designed a stand. Now, I did have help on it, and I give him credit in the first video. He had a stand that he was using. I mean, I liked the idea. It did what I needed it to do.
That was another of the questions that I wanted to ask you. Okay. But go ahead. So yeah.
Ask the question.
So you created a solution, right? Boy, you know what? Before I continue, this is why this is the Mad Maker Show, because I don't even have to be here.
I'm sorry.
No, but yeah, that's one of my key questions, dude. Don't take that from me.
I have to be here though. There's questions from the outside.
Oh, son of a gun. Okay,
all right, let's take a break. What are some of the questions on the outside?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, some of the questions from the outside. Doc would like to know.
Where's my cup?
Yeah. He said, I would like to hear Chad talk about his Instagram strategy when he posts about how he figures out the hashtags.
Okay. So obviously, anybody who's looked at my Instagram,
I replied to him that I taught you.
I was going to say that. I was giving you 100% credit. So there's been two things that have motivated me to work a little bit more on Instagram. For the longest time, I kind of had the perspective that Instagram was a zero-sum game. Like, I could spend a bunch of time on it, and it really wouldn't benefit me in any way. What I've found out is that advertisers are utilizing Instagram as a way of placing products. So not only do you have access to products through Instagram, but potentially sponsorship deals where they'll actually pay you. So even though you may not be making direct advertising revenue from an Instagram post, once you reach a certain level, you can use that as part of your total package going at sponsorship. So I was talking to Jamie. I had like 200 Instagram followers. And I said, Jamie, I said, you have 1,500. How are you getting 1,500? I didn't know Instagram. I didn't know nothing about it. I had 2 or 3 Instagram accounts, but I really wasn't using any of them effectively or putting any time into them. And he said, you got to use hashtags. You got to put as many hashtags as it'll allow you. I said, all right. So I started hashtagging stuff, and I just basically went through all the things I do: powder coating Yetis, Arctic's, one of the brands that we have access to. And I just added all the different brands, the powder coating, the laser, Boss laser. I just kept adding stuff. And what that does is it kind of puts you in front of different audiences if they're searching based on hashtag searches. And slowly but surely, I've started to grow. And it's kind of funny because, you know, I kind of feel like I'm more of the maker community, not so much I'm definitely not part of the powder coating community, because that's a very closed community, and not very many people are willing to share. But I tend towards the woodworking community, which is much more open, much more willing to teach, much more willing to share. And of course, the maker community as a whole, they do electronics, they do, you know, powder coating, anything, woodworking, anything, painting, illustrating, whatever you want to do, even vectorizing images, YouTube, anything that you do that is creating something from nothing is making. And that's kind of where I feel like I fall, even though I've kind of fallen into this narrow window of powder coating, laser etching. I do a lot more. I do wood turning, I do welding, and so I do a lot of other things. And so on Instagram, I try to post a picture of whatever I'm doing currently, or multiple pictures. And especially if I'm doing something for another Instagrammer or a YouTuber, I want to feature them on my Instagram, and then I hashtag it up and tag them in the photos. And partially for growth, but partially to because some of them are smaller channels than me, and so
that's one thing.
It draws people to their channels as well.
Yes, that's another thing. You are not stingy or selfish when it comes to sharing the love, regardless of that's another thing which I appreciate a lot from you.
Well,
from how you are.
You know, first, my nature is to teach. You know, I have another YouTube channel that's related to my business, my day business, that all of my videos are specifically about showing people how to do things. So the idea of teaching is kind of second nature. But the idea of lifting up everybody else, I'll give credit to Izzy Swan for that. You know, when I first came into the community, one of the people that kind of welcomed me in was Izzy Swan. And, you know, I've been fortunate enough to spend time with him, to work with him, partially in the Tool Masters Association. And so, you know, Izzy Swan definitely has taught me by lifting up other people, you lift up yourself. And it's not really even about that. Izzy just wants people around him to succeed. And, you know, if I can shout out Eloy, if I can shout out Jamie, if I can shout out Javi, you know, whoever, Steve, David, you know, all these guys that I hang out with on Hangouts or have done collaborations with, whatever, I like to be able to lift them up as well. We have any questions, Jamie?
Yes, we do. You just mentioned what you do for, or not what you do. You just mentioned your daytime job. Cage Creations asks, is this what you do as a full time now? Obviously, it's not. So, what do you do as full time?
So, in 1992, I went into business with my next door neighbor, and we started a company called U-Spray Incorporated. In about 1998, we started a website. We went on the internet, and it was funny because initially it was like members.aol. whatever. It was the 50 free hours of, and we were big into guerrilla marketing. That's one of my degrees is marketing. And so we were big into, you know, how can we market for cheap? Or how can we, because traditional marketing methods were terrible for my business. And what we do is we sell professional pest control products to homeowners. And it's kind of unusual. It's not a very common thing. Now, it has become more common. We're not the only player in the game, so to speak. But when we started, like even my own parents didn't believe that I was selling professional pest control products to homeowners. So when the web came along, it was a very positive thing. So bugspray.com, that's my day job. U-Spray is our company name. So if you ever order a cup from me, it comes from my day business. Don't call my secretary. Don't send emails. It is from me, Mancrafting.
You'll end up on the phone to some crazy dude from Alabama.
Well, let's see. Charles called up and said, or he maybe emailed, I didn't order anything from U-Spray. What is this? Somebody steal my credit card? Like, just take it. It's free. Don't worry about it.
We've got another question from David from Portal Woodworks. I think he's kind of stirring things here. He says, "Has Chad fixed his broken lathe yet?"
Oh, that's on the to-do list. It's I actually, so I have a deadline. I've got a pressure pot. I've got the parts for the pressure pot, and actually resin casting will be a useless endeavor if I don't fix it. I have the part somewhere around here, and I'll be working on that this week. Like I said 2 weeks ago.
Do you already have a resin?
I no. As a matter of fact, I tried to order it today. I talked to somebody on Instagram, and he told me he has a person who's relatively close to me. It is Make My Day TV, and that is. I actually met him. His name's Alex Kraus. I met him through. CNC, Run CNC through Nicholas.
Oh yeah.
And so anyway, we've become kind of friends on Instagram, and he's been giving me a lot of advice. He's actually sending me some burl. It should be here in the next few days. So I've talked to him about the resins I want to get. Obviously, Aluminite. Heath Knuckles, another person who's kind of inspired me to get into resin casting. You ever heard of Heath Knuckles, Jamie?
I have. Yeah. I'm actually in a collaboration with him.
Really?
Yeah. The David Welder Challenge. Keep your eyes out, people.
Are there any other questions? Go ahead, Chad. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Are there any other questions there?
Yeah, we've got one from Bales.
Whoa! Bales, wasn't he? Wasn't he banned? Wasn't he too?
It seems like a sensible question, but I'll let you judge.
It must be Bales too.
Well, Bales is so. This is the Mad Maker show, but Bales is so kooky and
no. Bales 2 is a weirdo.
Oh, okay. Okay. I always get him confused.
Bales 1, but I don't know. He goes, as a hobbyist/artist who is interested in a laser, but the full spectrum isn't large enough, and the Boss are comparable to a car, I'd like to hear about his. I believe it was from overseas.
No, actually, I've got the Boss laser, and we actually just purchased a second one. It just came in about 3 weeks ago. So I have the 1630, which is, it's not quite as big as a smart car, but it's pretty close. But we also have a 1416, and it's a little bit smaller. So I've been very happy with Boss. The thing I like about them is they are a U.S.-based company. The products do come from China, but when they get into the U.S., they pull them apart. They put the parts on them that they want on them. They run tests on them, and then they send it out to you. And if you have any issues whatsoever, they are like Johnny on the spot. I mean, I fortunately have not had any issues with mine, but I belong to the Boss Laser group, Boss Laser Owners group on Facebook. So if you're actually interested in buying one, I definitely recommend joining that group just to kind of look through what people say about stuff. They've been a good company as far as any kind of issues. They totally take care of their customers. And so the one I have is a 16 by 30 bed, and I can pull out the bottom of it, and I can put something in there as big as a drum, and probably laser, the face of the side of a drum.
And we have in your videos, you do lasering, all that stuff, so they can go through your catalog.
Yeah, and I'm slowly but surely adding content to the laser side. I don't want to do too much of that because I think that's a pretty small number of people that will actually have access to them. That said, there's a lot of people buying them right now because two things: the Chinese lasers. Whether you get something off of Amazon, eBay, or go with a company like Boss, the prices are coming way down. The one benefit you have with buying something from a company like Boss or Thunder is that there is support there. It's not like you buy it and you're kind of left out in the wind. You're going to probably have that experience if you buy something off of eBay or Amazon. You're not going to get the same level of support.
All right.
That said, this laser has been phenomenal. I mean, it's paid for itself in less than a year. In November, it'll be 1 year that I've owned it. So
we've seen the amount of orders that you've gotten.
And that's the thing, because before I was using vinyl to create logos. So I powder coat the tumbler with a vinyl on it, and I would peel it off and then put the cup back into the oven. And that process was super time consuming, and it didn't allow detail. So one of the biggest motivators, I don't know if you can see this, but if you look at my logo right there at the bottom, it says Manly Arts and Crafts.
Yes.
I can't do that in vinyl. That size logo, I have to do a 12 by 12 logo to get Manly Arts and Crafts to actually fit in there. I could take it out and do it without it, but it's my tagline.
Could you show us that? So you came out with a bamboo one as well. I think it's behind you. Could you show us?
Yeah. So that's wood. I burned it, and actually what I did is I taped it, burned it. I put a clear coat on it, and then black, and then another clear, and then peeled off the tape. But it was just a test. I wanted to try it out for the first time. And Beautiful. Actually, I put that picture on Instagram. I was surprised at how many people just were crazy about it.
Well,
I guess because it was something different.
It's the wood and metal and the logo, and it's a great thing.
Yeah.
Let me get. I want to get back to asking you a few key things here. So where we left off, you in your process, you had a problem, and you creatively found a solution for it with your tumblers.
The tumbler stand, yeah.
Could you tell us what that was?
So when you're powder coating, there's two issues. Powder sticks to metal. And on a stainless steel tumbler, it's metal on the outside. It's also metal on the inside. So I had this issue of how do I powder coat the outside without getting anything inside? So the first thing I did was I just used a cookie tray, and I started off with just aluminum foil on top of the cookie tray, so I didn't have buildup on it. Then I realized that was sticking to the tumbler, and that wasn't going to work. So I started using flashing like you'd use for shingles and stuff, from like Home Depot or for windows, just that flashing. And I would take like a 4x4 piece and put it on the cookie sheet, and then put the cup on it, powder coat it, stick it in. Well, the problem I had was the top edge was getting buildup on it, and then I'd have to spend like 20 minutes cleaning up that edge with a razor and sanding it and all that to make it a nice clean edge. That was obviously not acceptable. So in addition to the fact that the inside of it is metal and you got to keep powder out, the second problem is that the actual cup has to be grounded. Otherwise the powder won't stick to the cup. So I had to figure out a way to allow the inside of the cup to be grounded, at the same time keep the outside from sticking to whatever it was sitting on. So I needed an insulator. And one of the guys that was one of my YouTube viewers was also a Facebook page member, and he said, "This is how I do it." And he posted it. He sent me a picture of something, and it had a stand in it. And I was like, "Wait a second, a stand? That's a great idea." So I started talking to him about it, and he told me what he did. And so I went and I got the parts, and I did a video on how to make one. Now, the one thing that I did differently than he did is he just had one disc on it, and he basically left the bottom of the cup open, and he had like something to kind of support it. The thing that I did is I made it so that I could spin the washer to drop away from the tumbler, and then I could pull my insulator out. So when I put it in the oven, I didn't have it bake to the edge of the cup. And that actually, last year, it's not so much this year, but last year it was by far, which is kind of weird, but it was by far my best selling item. I made more money selling tumbler stands than I did tumblers.
Amazing.
What's crazy about that is basically I'm creating my own competition. But I was fine with that. I never had intended to do it, but it goes back to that thing. that I was saying earlier, when you make something, and let's say you put a video out about it, and people are saying, you know, where can I get that? How do I make that? I can't make that. Can you make that for me? You listen to it, and when you hear those words, you try to figure out how you can make it and make money at it. And so that's what I did with the tumbler stands. And it was funny, at one point my father-in-law says, well, what are you going to do when the people stop buying the tumbler stands? I said, something else. You know, I didn't really ever intend on doing tumbler stands as a business. So if it was there tomorrow, I didn't care. It helped me buy a welder. It helped me buy my iMac. It helped me buy a new camera. It was, and you know, most of the money that I made, I just keep dropping it back into the YouTube business.
Okay, so JP has a question for you.
Yes, I've got a question for you. One of your previous videos, you decided to powder coat bricks.
Right.
What was you thinking that morning when you decided to wake up and think, I'm going to powder coat bricks and see if it will work?
Wow, that's a good question. I think I had an idea about using the bricks for something. I had some kind of purpose in mind. At this moment, I cannot think of what it was, but I've kind of come to the conclusion that I want to try to powder coat everything. Can I powder coat glass? Can I powder coat a brick? Can I powder coat wood? You know, what can I powder coat? And that's probably the direction that I'll be heading down here soon with new videos, is new things to powder coat. Basically, powder coat everything.
Awesome.
And, you know, I listened to a couple of different podcasts. One is Made for Profit. The other one is Homemade Modern. And if you watch Ben Ueda from Homemade Modern, one of the things that he does is he tries to kind of become the go-to guy in any segment. So like right now, he's the go-to guy in concrete. Then he's the go-to guy in you know, pouring metal into different things. And he takes a simple idea and then he tries to expand on it and kind of be the guy that when you search YouTube, you're the guy they look at. And
very cool.
I mean, I love powder coating. I don't want to do it as a life. I don't want to do it as a living. I don't want to have a 6-foot oven where I can roll a car frame into it.
You were mentioning that before a while back. You were mentioning that I've got so many other interests and talents and things to explore, but people are digging.
Talents may be a stretch, but yeah, I don't want to get trapped in
well,
that.
Don't. You can be humble, but I would not say that. You have many talents. Go ahead though. We had that conversation. I don't want to steer you.
Totally. You know, I'm ADHD. I've been diagnosed, and I have lots of interests, and I'm not medicated, so I go everywhere. You know, one of the things I get accused of on a hangout is getting halfway through a sentence and disappearing. While I'm sitting in front of everybody, mid-sentence, everybody's like, Chad.
Well, let me ask you this. Now that we know I'm going to interrupt you more. Let me ask you this, though, because I really want people to. So there's a lot to you, a lot of different stories, a lot of different happenings in the past, and I just want people to also get a glimpse of that, so they see three-dimensionally. And we mentioned this, in general with this show. I'm just going to have to ask you. So it's come up that you're like a crazy circus unicycle juggling dude. What is that? Can you explain?
Okay, so the juggling goes way, way back to when I was in like high school. Actually, yeah, I was in high school. So a guy that I went to church with had been in the military, and he came back from overseas, and he was on Armed Forces Europe television, and he was a magician. He could juggle. He could do all these different things, and I was fascinated by it. And he was a very, very unique individual. So I went home and I tried to learn how to juggle, and I spent a lot of time doing it. And the great thing about juggling is when you're doing that, all you could think about at the time while you're learning was how to juggle. So you mentioned circus act. So the next thing that obviously would come to your mind is something like unicycling. And I never put the two together. I never really spent time juggling and unicycling. But what happened was I was in a car accident back in 2003, and I was being sued by the person that I was in the accident with. And I'll be honest, it was a very, very heavy time for me. I was very depressed, and I literally, all I could do was sit on the couch and watch TV. And anybody that knows me knows that that's nothing like me. I mean, there's been long stretches of my life where I didn't even own a TV, just simply because I didn't have time for it. So for me to spend 3 or 4 hours an evening sitting on the TV like catatonic, just waiting for the next thing to come on TV, is very unusual. So I started thinking, you know, I got to get myself out of this depression. And the reason I was in a depression is the person was suing me, and they wanted like $100,000. And all I could think about was I totally screwed up. And the accident itself isn't what I was upset about. It was the fact that I didn't have enough insurance, that if somebody was suing me for $100,000 above and beyond my limits, that they'd be suing me for 1.1 million instead of 200,000, right? I had like $100,000 limits. I have much higher now. So if you need to sue me, fight the attorneys. I have plenty of insurance now. I'm insurance poor now, but I started thinking about juggling again. And I started looking on the internet thinking, you know, maybe if I juggled, it would get me out of this funk. And while I was looking at juggling equipment on, it was Dubay.com. They have a bunch of different juggling stuff, juggling clubs, juggling balls. And I started looking through their site, and I saw a unicycle. And I remember back when I was probably 12, I was riding BMX bikes, and I had hopped on a unicycle thinking it would be easy. I have pretty good balance. This shouldn't be a big deal. And that thing totally like just went flying out from under me. And I was so embarrassed. I didn't sit on another one for about 20 years. I sat on another one 20 years later. Same thing happened to me in a bike shop. And I couldn't believe how something that looked so easy could be so hard. So when I started looking through this website, I said, you know what, I'm gonna order one of those. So I ordered a unicycle, and it took me probably 45 minutes to an hour, and I learned how to unicycle. And it was funny, but you know, you learn how to unicycle 10 feet, then you learn 100 feet, and then after 100 feet, you can pretty much unicycle as far as your body will allow you to.
I asked you this before, but to me, you're so high up. If the wheel were where your feet could touch, no problem. I'll mess around, and if I'm gonna fall, I could just, you know, plant my feet. But you're like, how the heck do you stop and get off and get? It's freaking. It's worse.
All right, so when I started unicycling, I started off on what's called a 20-inch unicycle. So the wheel, the rim is 20 inches, and the tire is a 1.75 by 20 or whatever. It's like a BMX bike. So think about where your feet are on the pedals of a BMX bike. They're not that high off the ground. Even though you sit high, you're still pretty close. So if you start to come off the unicycle, you're only stepping 8 inches. So you generally don't have like a serious wipeout where you're breaking an arm or a leg. Now, as I got better, you know, you try to continually challenge yourself, just like, you know, woodworkers, they try a more difficult build. You know, people don't just stick with, you know, cornhole boards or cutting boards their whole woodworking career generally. Usually they graduate to more difficult projects. Same thing with unicycling. So I went all the way up to where I was eventually on a 36-inch wheel, which when I was sitting on the seat, I was probably 3.5, 4 feet high. And then standing, you know, I was over 6 foot tall. I would tower over anybody on a 29-inch bike. And that's where I ended up having my next accident. I ended up breaking my leg. And I don't unicycle on those big unicycles anymore. I ended up selling mine. But I did for probably about 6 years. I did a lot of fundraising using a unicycle. which was a great avenue to raise money for diabetes research through the Tour de Cure. I did the MS 150, multiple sclerosis. I did the 24 Hours of Booty up in Charlotte, North Carolina. And actually I did Atlanta and I did DC. So there's 3 of them at the time. I've done all 3 of those. And that was all for basically the money would go to cancer research and childhood cancer research. So I did a lot of fundraising. The great thing about fundraising on a unicycle in a bicycling event is when you tell somebody you're going to unicycle 150 miles or unicycle for 24 hours, people are just like, are you serious? And they're like, here's $100, here's $50, whatever. They never even, you know, whereas if I'd said I was on a bicycle and I'm going to bicycle for 24 hours, yeah, you know, I might have raised a little bit of money, but on the unicycle, it was a very effective tool.
It's the risk of damage to oneself that makes it exciting.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like watching the NASCAR.
It's true. JP, any questions out there?
I was actually just getting a picture of the unicycle that Chad was just talking about.
Oh, that's so cool.
So that was that picture is from Maryland, the DC one that I did. That's the 24 Hours of Booty. And
let's stop so that it can say something, JP, so it could pop up on your screen just to see it, and then Chad can explain.
Testing. You just click on Chad, and it should, or click on me, and it should stay on me.
They're on YouTube, dude.
All right.
Yeah, if you click on me, Eloy, it should highlight my screen.
Yeah, I like the automatic. Once I click on it, I have to be clicking on it for the rest of the show. I like it to be I like the thrill of seeing where the screen's going to pop next, but I think they saw it. And so what was this?
Do you have another picture there, Jamie? Can you pop up another one?
I don't.
I'm closer to a bicycle. It kind of, I'm out in the middle of nowhere. It's kind of hard to get.
No, I've not got one at the moment. It's because I saved the picture.
Oh, okay. Well, my feet were 18 inches off the ground. There are no brakes.
Well, that's just insane, dude.
I've got. Yes, I have got one. Sorry.
No brakes. Are you
Let me
crazy?
just again for you. Here we go. Let's go.
Yeah, no brakes, no handlebars. Yeah, so there you can see it's, you know, the tire's 36 inches, so it's about waist high. And that guy in the black shirt, he's the founder of 24 Hours of Booty. So the great thing about being in an event with you know, hundreds and hundreds, maybe even thousands of other bicyclists, you get a lot of attention.
Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
actually, I do have handlebars on that one.
Ah, I see. That's true. A little bit safer, yeah.
When I went to the store, they had bikes for half off. Little did I know.
Hey, so look, let me ask you this as well. So, last year, you did a big part. You gathered a lot of people and sent out a lot of information. Started a Facebook page so people could connect and end up at the Atlanta show, which although I didn't go, it was such a success. Even though I didn't go, but everybody was streaming live, back to back. It was a complete success, and we had a visitor from England, and he's right there actually. And he stayed over at your house, and then he came over to my house.
So yeah, so how that all started? The Video Woodworkers had previously used the Atlanta Woodworking Show as kind of a gathering point. So a lot of YouTubers ended up in Atlanta, and I had missed the one in 2016, and I was really bummed about it. So I was really looking forward to the 2017 Atlanta Woodworking Show, and I found out that the Video Woodworkers had made other plans, and they were going to be doing an event in Oklahoma. Well, I live in Atlanta, so Oklahoma seemed like, you know, another world to me, and it was actually during the busiest time of the year for me. So I said, you know what? Maybe I can get the video woodworkers to change their mind, or at least maybe some other people. And at the time, I was, you know, Izzy and I and a couple of us, we were all on Hangouts all the time with Izzy. And I had an idea. I said, you know what? If I can get Jamie Page over here, Jamie's kind of liked in the community, maybe I can get a lot of other, you know, makers, YouTubers, woodworkers here to Atlanta, so I can kind of recreate that event that they had in 2016. So I talked to Izzy about it. I said, hey, what do you think about me setting up a GoFundMe page and, you know, getting Jamie over here for the woodworking show? And Izzy's looked at me. He said, you don't have to do that. He's like, I'll just pay for it. And I don't know if Izzy wants anybody to know that, but Izzy is like, when he has it, he will do for others in ways that nobody else would. And, you know, where somebody else might be, you know, kind of shrugging their shoulders at spending $20 to help somebody else out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it was actually, I think if now that I recall, we had all had a conversation about it, and it was actually Eloy that might have actually talked to Izzy directly about it.
We were together. We were together.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it's hard. It's foggy. It's foggy. I don't want to take 100% credit because there was a group effort, which makes it all the more disappointing that Eloy Escojedo didn't make it to Atlanta.
Well, wait a second. Something else. You did something else. I don't know how that came about, but I had no idea. One day you said, go check out this video link, and you did something really nice, both of you guys, where it was my birthday. I couldn't go. And you filmed the happening over there, and everybody said, would you like to shout out Eloy and give him a happy birthday? And you made it so that everybody would say no.
Right.
No,
so I had an idea, and we were at Joel Crawford's workshop, Missing Digit workshop. For those that know Joel, he's a super generous guy also, and he also happens to be on a podcast with Izzy Swan. And so Joel had opened up his shop to us. We had probably, I want to say 50 to 100 people there. It was a lot of people. And it was Eloy's birthday, and I know Eloy was feeling kind of bummed out that he couldn't be with all of us. And I wanted to wish him a happy birthday, but I wanted to do it in a way that was a little bit different because we were all kind of ticked that Eloy didn't make it. And so we wanted to kind of get that across. At the same time, we wanted him to know that we all loved him. So I went around and I went up to everybody and I said, hey, I'm going to wish Eloy a happy birthday. But what I want you to do is I'm going to ask you, can you wish Eloy a happy birthday? And I want you to say no, or whatever comes to your mind, but it needs to be negative. And so for the first, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes of the video is me walking around and asking people like Joel and gosh, there were so many people, Wes, Izzy,
Bobby Duke was
Carl,
there.
yeah,
Everybody.
Carl and all these people were just like people, the nicest people in the world were like, Eloy,
Berkey,
everybody. I mean, they were just so negative. It was just so funny. I mean, I was doing everything I could not to laugh while we were doing this.
Their faces were like this. Who? No. It was so.
Who is Eloy? And they would mispronounce his name. I mean, it was just funny. So at the very end of the video, I got the entire room. It was like I want to say it was about 100 people, all to sing happy birthday to Eloy all at once, and sent that over to. I posted it from the party to YouTube. Just made it unlisted. Sent it to Eloy. Said, here, check this out. And
I downloaded it and I added it to a video that was happening at that time because I was waiting for, because JP was staying with you, and right, and Mark Saunders was coming down to meet JP to take him down this way, but in the meantime he was with you, and I was down here cleaning up the house because I was going to have visitors, JP and Mark Saunders, and I did a video called "How a Bachelor Lives at 40," and I added that bit of the video inside there. So if you guys
somebody
want to see
watch it, you'll see it on your channel. Awesome.
Yeah, but that was very touching that you guys did that, and I'm very honored, and I said, oh wow, people love me. I didn't know.
Yeah,
So
you know,
nice.
it was a real bummer because, you know, it was your birthday and it would have been great to hang out with you and share that birthday with you. Unfortunately, you have a dog.
It would have. Well, it would have been. Let's not get into.
Poor old Vigo. He couldn't.
It should have been how a bachelor lives at 42, but 40 is a nice round number. JP, are there any other questions out there?
Yeah, Sterling asked, Team Scroll Saw or Team Router?
Oh boy, you know, they both have their merits. I like. You can do a lot of things with a scroll saw that you could do with a laser. As far as like, look at that, and that who did this, Jamie? Charles Deering. Charles Deering made this for me, and he did that all on a scroll saw. That's pretty amazing. But I've also seen some amazing work with a router. So I don't know. That's a tough call. I think the startup of using a router is probably a little easier because like rounding over edges and that kind of thing. But a lot of people are afraid of routers. The great thing about a scroll saw is you can have a 12-year-old, you know, on a scroll saw and not have to worry that they're going to get injured very severely if they do something incorrectly. So they both have their merits.
Pick one.
Yeah, you got to pick one.
If I had to absolutely choose, I'd have to go scroll saw.
Yeah, good boy.
But they both have their merits. They're both great tools. They both have their place in the shop. I couldn't imagine a complete shop without either one.
There we go. I'm gonna put your sticker on all of Richard's cups when I have to send them off to him.
Hey, did you get those yet?
No, not yet.
What?
That's a good thing. You know, Eloy mentioned about sending a couple of little extra gifts. I only wanted one cup. Chad sends me 12.
I sent 12. I didn't send you 12.
Oh.
Yeah, I love this, and just with the logo, it's just so bad to the bone, dude.
Well, that's because it's a skull.
Yeah.
Well, I like skulls, so what can I say?
That's actually Eloy for all you who can't tell. Check out that beard. It's exactly his beard. Just take the skin and
remove it.
Subcutaneous materials out of his face.
So Chad, apart from the powder coating and the tumblers, mugs, you're using laser. What other projects? I mean, I had you looking for the pens that you make. You did an awesome pen out of aluminum. What other projects are you interested in getting at, done in the past? If you can give us a little taste of that.
Well, as I said before, I'm starting resin casting. That's something I watched Heath Knuckles' videos for a year, and every time I comment, I'm just like, that is so beautiful. And I don't know how hard it'll be, but Heath makes it look doable.
Yeah.
And the stuff that he creates is just gorgeous. So I've always enjoyed watching his videos, and I really want to be able to have the opportunity to try that. So I'm doing that. I've got a lathe. I love turning. The great thing about a lathe is you get really quick, immediate gratification on a woodworking project. It's, you know, a pen, you could turn a pen in like 20 minutes and have it together and have a sellable product, you know, or a nice gift that, you know, I can make a pen with a beautiful blank for say $20, maybe less, maybe $5. I don't know, pretty cheap. And I can give it to somebody and they feel like they got, you know, a $100 pen. And that's a cool thing. I love welding. I did a collaboration with Fab 42, Richard Day.
Richard Day.
And that video's actually done pretty well. My welding videos do quite well. I've gotten almost 5,000 views on that. So that was a good collaboration.
JP's got another question coming your way.
Go for it.
Yeah. So actually, I don't know if you'd call it a question. While I was over in Atlanta, staying at your house, you was telling me about your old gardening days, and it turns out you used to be quite a bit of a prolific gardener.
What?
Back in the day. Either that or you was winding me up.
I'm going to have to go with winding you up because
you told me that you used to do a lot of gardening.
JP has been. We've been talking about that for a good while. We thought that you were an avid gardener, and now you're totally throwing this whole thing under the bus.
I don't know.
See
I've
what
tried
happens?
gardening. I wouldn't say I was a prolific gardener. No.
You told me that your gardeners won awards when you was over there.
No, I never said that.
Or came second place. Yes, you did. We were standing on your deck, and you told me that your garden came second place.
Who knows what insanity?
No. Okay, so no. Let's just get the English correct. Garden means landscape in the U.S.
Yeah.
Not a vegetable garden,
yard.
But the actual landscape.
Okay. Yeah, yard.
Yes, my landscape used to be like a golf green. I have Bermuda in the front, and I have zoysia in the back, and I used to use a reel mower. And my neighbors would come over and say, "Can I practice putting on your green?" Which, it was just my grass. And I would mow it 2 times a week. And at some point, I came to the conclusion that spending 10 hours a week in my yard wasn't a good use of my time. I love doing it, but there was other things I wanted to do. So I ended up hiring it out. And my yard's, it's okay. I mean, I could take a picture of it, and a lot of people would love it. So what threw me off, JP, was the fact that you said garden.
I was talking it in English.
Yeah, I apologize. And when I thought about it more, I realized, a garden is just your landscape in England. I do have a small garden in my backyard, which, basically I've killed. So yeah, I don't do a lot of vegetable gardening, but absolutely, I had a very nice landscape.
It's a beautiful view, though, I must admit. Got a nice
I do have a nice yard.
Yeah.
So that's hilarious though, because he was quite adamant about it.
I wish he would just speak English.
The welding area kind of kills it a bit though.
The welding has definitely taken its toll on my yard and my patio. So a lot of people who've seen my Instagram photos and maybe on my Facebook page, you'll see like a paver patio. So that's part of my actual landscape. Jamie's seen it. I have a 2-tier patio out the back of my backyard, and it's got moss growing on it. I mean, it's a beautiful patio, but it's become half of my welding area. And it's going to get cleaned up. I've actually started moving my welding out to the shed, and I'm going to fix that up to make it fireproof. And yeah.
Well, awesome, dude. So what we're going to do is we're going to wrap this up, and I'll let you guys go first. So JP.
Yeah. Well, you want me to plug all my social media, yeah?
You're welcome to it.
Okay, you can find me at my website at jp-woodwork.com, which is obviously, again, I'm going to plug Harnell Media for helping me out with everything to do with that. You can find me at makersinternationalpodcast.com, and that is basically it, apart from my YouTube channel, which is JP Woodwork, and Twitter and Instagram, which is JP_Woodwork.
Awesome. Chad?
MancraftingTM.com. That's the portal to everything else. Don't forget, I got t-shirts for sale now. Soon I'll have the magnets on my page. I'm always open for a sticker swap. I may not ship them back out to you, though.
And if you're in the UK, I've got some with Chad, so contact me.
Anybody in the UK or Europe or China, Japan, China, Russia, JP would be more than happy to mail those to you. Even Canada. It's probably cheaper to ship from England to Canada than it is from the US to Canada. I also have started a Patreon. I actually have one patron, David Jones from Portal Woodworks is actually my first patron. I was resistant to set that up, but hey, if you guys buy enough t-shirts, I don't need patrons. Cups, tumblers, whatever you want. I'd be happy to actually work for but if you want to support me, I'm good with that too. Mancrafting.
Very good. So, Chad, thank you so much for coming here and chatting with us. It's been very interesting, and I appreciate it, dude. It's very nice of you to open up, and there's actually more. So I ask you, would you want to come back and say hey to us again in the future?
Absolutely. Yeah, anytime. I'm always open.
Awesome. And I'd also like to thank JP. Indispensable you are, dude. I appreciate it so much. Cacao.
What is it, 4 a.m. in England?
Close.
Well, when JP was here, he secretly put Carl Jacobson stickers all over the place, so I've got them. There's still even the one on the back of the car. It's been through hurricanes and everything, and it's still pristine. I don't know what those stickers.
There's on Chad's laser.
Look at that.
He's also put Carl stickers on my lathe. I wish he had put them on there before he used it.
So guys, thank you all out there in the chat. Thank you for coming out here and hanging out with us. Check out Rockin' Woodworks. It's in the description in this video. That's where I'll post the interview with Chad. That's where I have the interviews with Bobby Duke, Matt Haas, Adam McMillan. This is episode 4. Now, next week, we're going to have Miter Mike. A lot of you guys know him. Real cool dude. I don't know.
Mike.
Speedo.
Has he been interviewed before? Do you guys know?
Not that I'm aware of. I haven't seen it.
So it might be his first interview, and we'll be talking with him. So, guys, thanks a lot. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks for having me, Eli.
All right.
Take it easy, everybody.
Good night, JV.